What was that? What was that song? Is that like Chemical? No. What was it? The Crystal Method? Was that the song? Yeah, about hitting the button, the Crystal Method. Was that their big dance tune that they had?
That's all you, man.
Yeah, got nothing.
You guys didn't like watch like listen to dance music or something like
No,
techno music back in like
that's a you
the.
thing. That's a you thing. Crystal Method. What they did the intro to Bones, that TV series, right?
Oh, that I don't know. I never watched it.
No, now you don't know. Now you don't know. Now you're like, yeah, you remember that hit the button song? And then you're like, okay, yeah, the intro to Bones. That's not Crystal Method. All right, sure.
I don't know. All I know is that Massive Attack had the intro to House.
Oh, House. I remember that show. That was a
What
good
a
show.
good show.
That was a great show. I've often thought about doing a rewatch on it, but then it's like everything was always lupus until it wasn't. Right? Oh, what's wrong with him? It's probably lupus. Don't worry about it. And it's like, no, he's foaming at the mouth. Like, oh, it's not lupus. Do you remember what the doctor's first name was?
Was it Michael House? Are we talking about Michael House?
No, it wasn't Michael House.
It's not Michael House?
No. Andre, remember what House's first name was?
I don't remember his name, no.
Gregory. Yeah.
Greg.
Yeah.
Okay.
Greg. Dr. Gregory House.
I remember Cuddy, but
Yes,
don't remember House.
Everyone remembers her.
Hey guys, welcome to the Sidekick Show. It is Canadian Thanksgiving, so if we seem a little slow tonight, it's probably because we
slower
are
than usual
on tryptophan from all the turkey we ate. My name is Rob Jon. The Joker on the other side of the screen is John Ho, and we have a special guest this week, which is Andre Greenidge. Who everybody knows. Everybody knows Andre and John are the co-owners of Heroes World. But Andre, it's good to see you. We actually haven't been on a podcast together for like months.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. So, dude, it's good to see you.
Yeah, you guys too. Thanks for the invite.
All right, we'll see you later then.
Yeah.
Right,
It's a long farewell.
So, did you guys have a good Thanksgiving? Let's start off with that. Yeah.
Well, we're doing the Big Bird tomorrow, so.
Are you? Okay. What about you, Johnny?
My usual family Thanksgiving got canceled. Like with the extended family or whatever. So we're probably gonna do it. We had a whole bunch of food today. There's more food coming. I'm waiting for some more deliveries.
Okay.
So what's Thanksgiving without pizza, chicken, and what else? I don't know what else we need.
Like is it an Uber Eats Thanksgiving, John?
Yeah, it seems like if it's not convenient. It's raining outside, folks. If you guys are out in the sun or it's nice and dry out, it's raining over here. So yeah.
Let me ask you a question. You guys, you have Uber Eats, you have DoorDash, you have Skip the Dishes. What's your go-to?
My wife loves the Uber. There's always like coupons and deals and all that kind of stuff. We often wonder who foots the bill for those deals. Is it Uber? Like if you get a coupon or whatever, or is it the restaurant that basically just loses like $50 or something like that? So I don't know.
Andre?
You know what? I'm super old school. I don't think I've ever used any of those services. Usually I'm out and about and we'll pick up stuff on the way back, but we're not very foodie. Like we don't crave something in an odd time without being able to schedule it. So
like if you're at home and you're doing fall cleaning, right? You're getting ready for the fall and the winter, and you're just like, I don't want to drive anywhere. I'm tired. I've been moving boxes and doing all this stuff. You wouldn't just like hop on an app and try to order something for yourself?
You know,
like
again,
you
like
Holly wouldn't order something?
Yeah, I think we're so old school that we're brainwashed into who delivers, and we'll be like, are we going to order Pizza Hut, Pizza, Swiss Chalet? You know what I mean? Like, to be honest with you, I'm also super skeptical. Like, I don't know who would want to DoorDash or Skip the Dishes McDonald's. Like, if that stuff doesn't get to you in 5 minutes, it's nasty. You know what I mean? Like, John, remember we would wait for McDonald's at the old location? And if we didn't get back, if there was a lineup and you had to wait for something, sometimes by the time it's cold or whatever, like who wants cold fries?
Yeah, remember when
I don't
KFC,
even know if I trust that.
Yeah, remember when KFC first started delivering, Andre? We would do it at the store because we're stuck at the store with not many options. There's a pizza joint next door. We got sick of pizza, and then we'd be like, KFC's delivery now, so let's get a KFC delivery. And it took forever. It would take the whole day. But I guess they were still ironing out the kinks.
Yeah.
But what about you, Rob? Did you throw something? We were gonna barbecue stuff, but it started raining here, so that's why we ended up with the Uber Eats option. What about you, Rob? Are you traditional turkey gravy stuffing cranberry sauce?
Yeah, Doc McStuffin. Yeah, we did it yesterday. So we've just, as I said last week, we just completed our renovation. We actually had our final part was done. The doors were installed. So we had everybody here yesterday, which is Saturday. So it was like our first like hosting well in about a year or so, but to do it in the new kitchen with everything else was kind of nice, right? With everybody was kind of around the island. And so yeah, so we had everybody here yesterday, and it looks like they're already booking a time to come back at Christmas. So I guess we're hosting, right?
Writing their name on the fridge.
Like, that's right. Yeah. Like, all right, everybody's gonna be here
Christmas time.
All right. I'm like, wait, what? So yeah. No, it's great. So anyway, hey, thank you to those who are tuning in. I see Scott and Lewis are in the chat. To those who are tuning in a little bit later or online through your podcast forum, thank you so much. Please do us a favor, like, subscribe, give us the 5-star reviews, whether it's on Apple, iTunes podcast, or Spotify or whatever. Again, this is a Psychic show, so this is like our, I guess, John, this is like 2.0, right? We said this last week. We're changing up the format. We're doing once a month. We're going to have a special guest on. Obviously, we're kicking it off. Our inaugural special guest is obviously Andre, but we're going to be changing it up, so every week will be a little bit different. And I know people are dying to talk and hear from Andre on his Ahsoka thoughts. All right,
Exclusive.
I just binged it.
Exclusive for here.
That's right. I binged it. I finished it this morning. I woke up super early. I put the earphones in so I could airplay it from my TV. So I didn't wake up anybody because I didn't want the lightsaber battles waking anybody up. So I watched it. So I have thoughts, but we're all looking really forward to hearing what Andre has to say. But first, what I want to do is I actually want to get to know Andre a little better. So I've known these two hooligans for it's been 10 years.
Jesus Christ, you're old, Rob.
You know what? Let me tell you something. Nothing tells you you're old and like your kid coming down and saying, look at these photos I found when I was in grade 2 and grade 1. And you're like, wow, I had like dark hair. And then I'm like, what happened to my hair? Right? So yeah.
What happened
to your hair? So John and I kind of want to just talk to Andre, man. I'm going to tell you, Andre, for the longest time, I always in my head pronounce your last name Greenridge. I don't know why. I can never I have to focus and remember it's Greenidge, right?
Yes.
Greenidge, no R.
It happens a lot, though.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Everybody
why.
assumes there's the R. It's like your brain puts it in there because it looks like it should be, right? So
yeah,
it's a common mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
My boy Scott from back in Unionville public school days.
Well, yeah, I actually wanted to talk about your origin story. Kind of like we know where you are now, but I kind of wanted to how did you get from starting out as little Andre Greenidge without the R to where you are now? Like I want to know more about you, man. Where did you grow up? Tell us about yourself.
All right. So formative years were in Scarborough, right? I'm a Scarborough kid. Spent grades, kindergarten to grade 6 in Scarborough, and then in the middle of grade 6, I guess, right at the Christmas break, we moved to Markham, and that's where I went to Unionville Public School. And from Markham, from Scarborough to Markham, I've been in Markham all my life. So for the next X number of years, so I'm a Markham fixture now. That's kind of it. Like I'm really, like, I would say Markham is home, although the roots are in Scarborough. I know a few of the Scarborough places because I kind of left there before you go exploring. I think I was 12 or whatever when I left and stuff like that. So I wasn't, I didn't have my teen years there, but still have a lot of friends there and a lot of contacts there and family and stuff. But yeah, Markham's been it, hook, line, and sinker. My parents moved up here, and then when I got old enough, I bought a place. And as you know, the business started in Markham because that's our hood, right? So we kept it in Markham, and 2 iterations, and now Heroes World 3.0, we are in Richmond Hill, but we're just on the Richmond Hill Markham border, so we can get away with still saying we're still Markham.
Yeah. So it was you and your brother.
Yeah. I got a brother, Anthony, who's 5 years older than me.
Okay. He was on the show. He was on the show during COVID. We had him on. Yeah.
Yes. So we share a lot of the same interests. And as you know, like if you have older siblings, sometimes you emulate what they like and stuff like that. So I remember playing D&D with him and his friends, and I'm sure he hated it because could you imagine having your brother who's 5 years younger, hanging around and playing D&D and stuff? But it was almost through him that I got into comics and stuff because I would read his comics and stuff. But then I was the one that really latched on to comics and kept up with comics. Like there was no point in my adolescence that I let that hobby drop, and
did that start in when you guys were in Scarborough, or did that really kind of take off once you got to Markham? Because
no, that was
life in Markham, right?
That was comics were man, that was when I was 6 years old. The first comic I ever got was Rom the Space Knight number 6, actually, and we got it down at Union Station. We were picking up my aunt, and the train was late, so my dad bought my brother and I comics, and I picked the man in shining armor on the cover, and literally from that moment, and I actually do remember it just perusing that and just being so engrossed in it. And at that age, I would literally take the comic with me everywhere. So that comic was beat up, and stuff, but it did allow me to realize that you can get these all the time. And down the street from us in bike distance was a store called Scarborough Fair, which was your like 7-Eleven type of store, your corner store, right? So all the time I would be riding my bike over and buying issues, and you didn't care what issue you got. You just wanted a cool cover, and that's it. You didn't know if you were going to get the next issue or whatever. That didn't, continue the story. It didn't matter. You just picked up. Yeah. So I remember picking up stuff like, Alpha Flight, G.I. Joe comics, like just anything that looked cool. And I think the worst one was, if anybody remembers the old Alpha Flight stuff, picking up Alpha Flight number, I think it was 11. And at the end of the issue, Vindicator is trying to, fix his suit, and then it explodes. I didn't see the next issue of that. Are you kidding me? Like, how was I supposed to get that? Right? It didn't, like, you didn't get monthly stuff, right? So that was it, and I remember a couple times, specifically when the G.I. Joe comic came out, it was that double-sized issue, and I must have, raided my dad's change and paid in all nickels at the store. But then the next issue I got was like issue 4. So that would have been months later. So I begged my dad to take us downtown to the Silver Snail when it was on Queen Street. Wow. And it was so funny because, he let us out, and he's like, you got 15 minutes, because there was no parking. There was no meters. So he was just circling Queen Street and trying to find parking. And at that time, Silver Snail didn't have it. So the people they're like, oh, there's another comic store just 2 blocks down called Dragon Lady. And that was the first time I ran to Dragon Lady and go to buy, G.I. Joe number 2. And I think at the time, I paid like $1.25 or $1.50 or something. And the sad thing is, I had to beg my mom because she didn't understand. It's like the cover price back then was 70 cents, 75 cents. She didn't know why is this more? I didn't know why it was more. All I knew is I needed it to kind of continue and stuff, right? But that was the memories, and my parents always were, I would say, quasi supportive. Like I was reading, but not only was I reading, but I was drawing from those comic books, drawing all kinds of things, and stuff. And like I said, that love just went and continued all the way up. It's comics have literally had an impact at almost every decision of my life going forward, right? All the creative stuff, reading novels, playing video games, all of its roots are comic books. If there were not comics, right, it would be, I don't know where it would be.
So it's so interesting because I don't think like people now like who aren't of our vintage, and I think that's a better way of saying how old we are. They don't remember what it was like. There weren't many dedicated comic book stores, right? And if they were in the back part of a mall or flea markets or whatever. You generally had to go to your local convenience store and go to like the spinner racks, right? And grab them off. So like when Andre says like they didn't have like certain issues, like you would have to go down to the Silver Snail, depending on where you lived. That might not have been accessible or feasible for you to jump on, right? To go to these specialty stores. Like it was so you would just grab these things off the rack based on the cover. Because you always had like the store guy would always be like, hey, you buy something or you get out. So you couldn't sit there and like leaf through them, right? Like I used to go to like Chapters, a few years ago before COVID. You see people just sitting there with like trades. And they would just read the whole thing and put it back, right? You couldn't do that back then. You would have to find it. Like I would go camping. I think I told you this. I would go camping. I would find you get the multi like 6 comics that were put together in like a multi-pack, right? Just random shit, right? And you would just and that's how you. And I'm sure like your ROM number is 6. You said, right?
Yep.
I'm sure that thing was rolled up, put in your back pocket, just beat the shit. But we didn't know. We didn't know back then that like comics were going to be what they are. So then your first, I guess it's safe to say your first comic book memory then would have been ROM, right? Is like, your whole world exploded, right? Like I know for me, it was getting my haircut in Scarborough at like an old school Italian haircutting place. And it was like everybody were smoking while cut, like barbershop, right?
Yeah.
But they had like 1970s Spider-Man, like John Romita Spider-Man, and that's how I read it. John, what was your first comic book memory?
I want to say it was probably some Captain America issues, but I got like I didn't get to go to the store. I got basically a shoebox full of comics from a neighborhood kid up the street, and they were all reprints of like like Iron Man getting his armor, like the Iron Man #1 or Tales of Suspense, and all. It was like some type of reprint series. So I learned all the origins of them. So I don't have any specific exact one that I went to the store to buy. I just got because I grew up in a smaller town, right? So it was like literally a shoebox full of beat up comics, which is cool. I feel like you should be able to get those graded, and the lower the grade, the bigger the badge of honor you should have, because that means you threw it in your back pocket and just carried it around with you like that. That'd be a cool grading system, guys.
Yeah.
The more well loved a book is, flip that scale around.
Yeah.
So, Andre, so you're reading comics, but then you also had a love of movies and fantasy and stuff like that, right? So you kind of concurrently, I guess you could say, started getting into like Star Wars and movies. Is that a safe?
Oh yeah. Well, again, being that child of the 80s, it was all around that time. Like it really was. I guess everybody says they've got the greatest childhood, right? But again, this is like 1980, and I'm watching the cartoons, and we've got Saturday morning cartoons. You've got the Toronto Star, I think it was, had Spider-Man comic strip in there. So
Saturday.
Every week you're getting like the panels and reading that, and not going to the theater a lot, but I do remember going to see Star Wars in the theater, and then I do remember renting a VHS machine, and you got Star Wars with it, because that's what you did, and you watched that for the whole weekend. You had that thing for 24 hours, and you invited whoever was over from the neighborhood. You didn't go out bike riding that day. You were watching Star Wars and stuff, and then all those other movies came out. If it was anything genre, like we would call it genre now, but it was all sci-fi stuff, all the action stuff and the adventure stuff. And it just kind of continued, and then we went to, then came the G.I. Joe and the Transformers and He-Man and all of that stuff.
We were marketed to.
Yeah, we were yeah, marketed to. But the interesting thing is, back then, like, there was only a couple of avenues to really get toys. Like look at what John and myself at Heroes World and the other comic stores, like, you can go in and get whatever toys you want. Back then it was consumers distributing, and maybe Eaton's, and there was no Walmart, there was Woolco. And
Simpsons. Simpsons. Throw down another old reference.
Yeah, and if they even had toy sections, so although we were marketed to for these toys, you were happy to have a Star Wars figure, a GI Joe figure, or whatever, and stuff. And it wasn't until, I would say, maybe when Toy Biz started doing the Marvel figures. John, what were they called? The just the original Marvel line. Where now, but by that time, I'm probably well into my late teens, that you could go and get any figure you wanted. But up until then, it was just like Eaton Center at Christmas time. Yeah, Eaton's had that great toy department, and at Christmas you'd get what you kind of were hoping for. Other than that, it was drooling in the Christmas wish book or the consumer's catalog and stuff like that, right? But again, you played with your buddies and you were happy with what you had, and if you had a vehicle for your Joes, that was cool. If you didn't, you played with your friends, or if your friends had Star Wars vehicles. Like, I didn't have many Star Wars vehicles. I think I had the snow speeder, but boy, did I love that thing. You know what I mean? And it wasn't, you didn't really feel kind of left out of the loop. Like, everybody kind of played together, or that's the memories I have. Like, maybe, I was fortunate enough to at least have some of those. But like, I remember saving up and buying Soundwave as my first Transformer, because he came with multiple, he had the cassettes and stuff like that. That's how I used to choose, what guys, oh, look at the accessories I'm getting a 2 for, because when you're using your own money as a kid, wow, that was something else, right?
So then I want to fast forward then, because you and I, again, are roughly the same vintage. So like into the 90s, you're in high school, right? And this like passion that you have, and you're loving these comics and the world of Star Wars and the figures. Let's face it, man, in the 90s, that we were not, like, nerds and geeks were not cool. It wasn't easy for us growing up in the 90s and in high school, right? Music changed, everything was changing, and we weren't marketed to the way we were anymore. So how, like, was high school rough? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because you have this passion and you kept it. Did you have to suppress it, or were you like, I don't give a shit, I'm gonna fly my nerd flag? And
it's kind of funny, because going from Scarborough to Markham, like, I didn't really know, and especially like Unionville Public School, and Scott will attest to it, that was like hitting yuppie, yuppiness. Like, all the kids and all the parents were all had IBM jobs, were really wealthy. It was the age of Benetton, Roots, Beaver Canoe. I never had any of that. I wasn't into that.
Monaco.
All the Club Monaco, all the kids were watching Growing Pains and all that stuff, and none of them were into comics or never really said that much. And so like, I think I didn't know any better to hide who I was,
right?
Especially I would say in grade 6 to 8 or whatever. I knew enough not to bring my toys to school with me at that point, right? But it didn't matter. Like, if I was writing a creative writing story or anything like that, man, it was all comic book stuff. If I could get away with doing a book report on comics, it was comic stuff, and whatnot. And then in high school, I guess I wasn't a big, like, I'm not a huge guy or whatever, but like, I didn't take shit from anybody. And I was, I guess, centered enough in that to know. But at the same time, I wasn't like the cool kid or whatever. I was just like, I used to carry comics to school. Hell, I think at grade 10, I started working at the hobby shop in the mall, right? So I, like, I wore the badge. And then in high school, in OAC, which is grade 13 for people who are young, we had an OAC here. I ran for student council president, and all my posters were all like, I took Superman and I colored him black and gave him a flat top and stuff like that, like the whole thing. And I won, and it was just like, I campaigned on that, right? So I guess I was fortunate, but at the same time, I knew there was kids who there was that corner of kids that were into comics and all that stuff. But at lunch, I'd go over and talk to them and see what they were reading and what they brought in, and if they were going to the comic shop that Wednesday, and if I'd see them later, and stuff like that, right? So I know that there was, it wasn't the greatest of times, but I'm sure I got made fun of for other things other than that, if that was if that was a thing, right?
This is what I find kind of fascinating, right? Is that because I know from like my experience, like comics kind of, I'm trying to think, when was the Death Return of Superman? 94-ish, 95,
94,
right?
yeah.
So I was hiding my comic love while I was in high school. So I graduated 95. And so I was hiding it. Grunge era was I was into music. I was really into movies. Like I was working at a video store. So that was kind of my thing, but I always suppressed the comics because it was always listen, man, comic book nerds and fans and comic book store guys were never looked upon as being cool. They were always caricatures, right? As but whether it was the Simpsons or later on the Big Bang Theory, like it was always kind of like, you were a ostracized, you were the punchline, right? The joke and stuff like that. But what I find fascinating is that you have this passion, you don't give a shit. You grow up, and then you take that passion. You say, you know what? Like this is my life. Like it's not even a hobby anymore. It's past that threshold from being a hobby and a love, and now I want to make it like my living, my vocation, and this and that. And then you meet up with some fool, and you guys decide to open up this comic book store, which is now in its you are approaching your 22nd year,
23rd
year. You're in your
we're in 22 now.
Yeah, so you're now, like when you sit back and you think about this, are you guys like are your minds blown that you've been doing this now for 22 years, approaching 23 years?
I would say my mind's not blown by it, but my body is.
Okay.
If I didn't feel old, like we just moved the store, and man, that killed me. That was a lot of like I don't feel my age because of what I do. I genuinely love comics. I love introducing people to comics. It's fantastic. Whether it's John and I are lucky. We don't just sell comics. It could be Warhammer, or it could be Magic or card games or anything. I like just seeing that excitement of somebody getting into something or learning something or buying something that they've sought after. That is such a reinvigorating feeling, and it's really special to be able to do that day in and day out. So yeah, the time gone in a flash.
Right.
Like I have to pinch myself. 22 years, like holy crap, it's been. But there's certain days where the body, I'm like, no, it's been 22 years. I am not 25 anymore.
Right.
When we started this, right? So, but yeah, other than that, yeah, it keeps going, right? So
like a couple of years ago, we get into the pandemic, right? The whole world shuts down, and I know you and John are like, holy shit, you guys are business owners, right? You guys, how do you maintain this? But then, you also then help spearhead this, like essentially a COVID relief, like a benefit thing for other comic book stores, like practically across the country, right? You had the Dragon involved, you had a bunch of other ones. I think you had Red Skull Comics out in Alberta were involved. Like you guys, Gotham Central. So like there's, that, would you say that period was kind of like your lowest because of COVID, but then somewhat rewarding as well because of what you accomplished, because you guys nailed it. You hit it out of the park over that was it 12-hour, right? Kind of marathon type thing.
Yeah, you know what? COVID really was, it was the game changer, because it felt like we were losing the business for no fault of our own.
Yeah.
Like we didn't gamble away stuff. We didn't make poor purchases. We we weren't sitting on tons of the wrong inventory. Like we didn't go, oh, we're all in on Beanie Babies, and then the door, the floor falls out of it, right? So yeah, it was a hell of a trying time. And I remember when we were just getting back, they were talking about letting us open back up, and I think this was around it was like May or something. And a couple of my really good friends that I like colleagues that run their own stores, I just reached out to them. I said, hey, and this is Daryl at Cyber City and Jen from the Dragon, Carlos from Gotham Central. These are all guys that I've known forever, and they all have great stores. They're people that I talk to when I was, thinking about doing it and coming up and stuff. And I was like, hey, let's do something different this year for Free Comic Book Day. Let's try and band together and say, if our customers go to another store, they'll get something special. I was just trying to say, hey, let's just get people maybe going around and stuff. And then the idea dawned on me, says, hey, well, why should it just be us locally? Everybody's suffering, right? So, Jen was like, yeah, why don't we do like an online con? And I was like, all right, how do we do this? Right. And the cool thing about being in comics is like we're talking about all these kind of shared experiences. When you meet these artists and writers and people making comics, they have those same experiences too. Right. So everybody, like we knew a ton of guys in the industry at our shop, and every shop knew people, comic book professionals and Canadian comic book professionals because of where we are, right? So it was kind of cool to really put that together and stuff, and literally do it while tripping on our own 2 feet because we had never done it before. But it was great. We helped some stores. We put some stores on the map. Some people were able to get stuff at auctions and whatever. So it felt really good to do that. But also what it did is take the mind off of what was a very hard time, man. It was a very, very bad time for businesses and stuff. And a lot of stores didn't survive it. I'm very thankful that we did and stuff, but that's not to say that we didn't work our tail off, and it was through doing this, and you were a big part of that. You and Stu, every Sunday, you're kicking us in the ass. Hey, let's do a podcast. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's keep people engaged, and maybe they buy something, anything, and it really felt like we were almost door-to-door salesmen. Yeah. Right. But it wasn't, if it wasn't for guys like yourself and our family, our crew of loyal supporters and stuff, we wouldn't have made it, regardless if I went across Canada myself, and did a Terry Fox run. We wouldn't have made it without the people who wanted us to survive, the people who love what we do and stuff. And a couple years later, we're at 3.0 and we are climbing back up. We didn't quite hit rock bottom, but we sank a little bit. Now we're back up on the rise. So it feels good.
It feels like there's a huge momentum behind the storm with what you guys are doing. And I was talking about this with John last week about all the activities and the events that you guys are running now out of your new home base, right? Yeah. And I think that's great. And so, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm sure you've been asked a million times, but you're a guy who grew up reading comic books. ROM number 6, your first comic book. You're crazy. You're selling it. You're telling people this is my path here, guys. You started a business. You're selling it, and all of a sudden you end up in a comic book. Come on, man. There's got to be at a certain point. You got to be like, wait, what happened? Right? This is crazy.
Yeah. It's surreal, man. It's super wild. I pinch myself every day. So grateful. And I think part of it is really, it really goes back. It was almost being rewarded for what John and myself do. If you ask John, we go back to when we started this store, the whole thing was break the mold. I don't want to be the stereotypical shop. We wanted to be clean, well lit, bright, service everybody. We weren't going to judge, we weren't going to exclude, none of that. That is in the DNA. That's the core of our shop. That's the foundation that everything's built on. So Heroes World 2.0, we moved to across to Unionville High School, and I see tons of kids, not as many into comics. There was some into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon cards and all that stuff, right? But, lo and behold, I see a short little Indian girl buying old Iron Man back issues. And then that you strike up a conversation and, hey, how did you get into these comics? And are you reading this? And have you seen this and stuff? And again, it's treating every customer as a valued customer right out the gate, striking and making that relationship and being interested and stuff. And if I never did that, you know, I would, you know, maybe Amon would have picked up that comic somewhere else, or maybe she would have found Miss Marvel on her own. But, you know, just look at that spark, right? Like just lighting that kind of fuse, and then where it goes. And holy crow, like, you know, super happy and excited for her to not only land the part, but she lives the part, nails the part.
Yeah.
And then, you know, seeing how she grew into that part and talking to her after the fact, because I think we had deeper conversations after. But, you know, it comes out that she wants to write the Miss Marvel comic and stuff. And we had talked about it. Initially, I was like, hey, I want to reprint your favorite issue of Miss Marvel, and maybe you do a backup story. And she's like, oh, no, I don't write comics. I've never written a comic. You know, I said, okay, well, tell you what, why don't you write a letter to the saying thank you to the fans, and we'll have you here for a signing and stuff like that. And then I said, no, I said, you should write the comic. You should write something. I said, you know the character, you know the history, you know all this stuff. I said, you've played her, you've helped make the TV show a hit. I'm sure there's a lot of you in that, you know, and stuff. And she kind of brushed it off. And then a couple months later, she comes by and says, hey, I want to put you in the book. I'm writing Miss Marvel. And I'm like, sure, just get my good side. And then look what she does. She puts me in with a speaking part. I get to say my name. Carlos on the art made it look like me, you know, and that's what a thank you, you know, like again, been around so long, but to be in the comic, I laugh. I'm part of the 616. Like, I'm officially a character in the 616.
So do you have a cameo coming up in the Marvels coming out in November? Andy, you know? Yeah.
I don't think so, but you know what, to be honest with you, this means more than anything. Like, again, 6-year-old Andre and collecting comics. Like, yes, would it be unbelievable to be in the show? But this is it. This is comics, man. Yeah. The source material, the tangible thing that you know my life's built around. I'm in one. Yeah. And awesome. and again, the coolest thing is not only the speaking line, but her putting me as, hey, do you want to join the comic book club? Yeah. You know, that's my thing. I'm like, you know, if there's anything I try to do is get people to read good comics, because I love comics. I want you to love comics. So it's almost like, you know, that's me. That's what I would be doing. You know, if I was on campus, I would be like, I'm promoting comics and promoting that excitement. And then it's funny because the next panel, she rejects me. And I'm like, aw. And I feel that way. You know, when I tell people, yo, you got to read this book, and I spew my heart out about how good this book is. And then they're like, oh, maybe I'll get it next time. I'm like, didn't I just tell you how cool this book was? Like, how are you not? Why don't you want to pick it up?
I got some hit list questions for you really quickly, all right? Rapid fire, all right? Because comics have then evolved into movies and everything else, and you and I very rarely ever see eye to eye on some of these things, right? But this is why one of the reasons why I love you so much, because I love our Discord and that we can both have opposite, although sometimes we do share a lot of the same stuff. We have opposite reactions to things. But all right, ready? Quick. First thing comes to mind. For worst MCU movie.
Oh, Avengers 2.
Okay, Age of Ultron. Worst Star Wars movie.
That's easy. Episode 7.
There's too many to choose.
Too many to choose.
Episode 7? And that was Rise of... wait, no, that was The Last Jedi, right? No.
No, sorry. Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. Okay. Worst DCEU movie, which this might be really hard for you because you hate all of them.
No. I think Andres likes the DC.
Suicide Squad 2.
What? Oh, but you're a James Gunn hater. Okay. Okay, this one's going to get you. Worst Fast and the Furious movie.
Tokyo Drift.
Okay. So now, you're on a desert island, Andre. You can only bring one of your worst movies in your list to watch on repeat for the next 20 years. Is it going to be Age of Ultron? Is it going to be Force Awakens? Is it going to be Suicide Squad 2?
I'm going to learn how to drift, yo.
Tokyo Drift?
I'm going to learn how to drift.
Learn how to drift.
Oh, man. That I did not. I actually thought you would have chosen Force Awakens because at least it would be like at least you could geek out a little bit about it.
You know, if I can just say why Force Awakens is the worst one. It's the worst one for me because John will remember this. We did a podcast and I said if J.J. Abrams does a movie, I'm not seeing it. And I didn't see it. And I skipped it all the way until it came out on Blu-ray. And somebody said, Andre, it's not as bad as you think. And I'm like, no, it probably is. And he's like, no, just watch it. And I watched it, and seeing it, that was the death of the EU for me, the extended universe. And it was because I didn't see what they had done, so it didn't exist. But when I saw it, it's like, yeah, it's real. They killed those characters. They killed the book, and I didn't see anything after that. So like, I didn't see 8, didn't see 9, and stuff. So yeah, so that's why it's the worst one for me. You know, I'm sure.
Andre has kind of a ceiling because he didn't watch those ones after.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you, people aren't agreeing. There's a lot of love for Bow Wow in the comments. Over Fast 9. I gotta tell you, Andre, man, I could actually literally talk to you for hours on things about, like, we could talk about comics and movies, but I love hearing about like people's stories and how they got there. So I appreciate you sharing that stuff with us, man. John, you got anything you want to ask your partner in crime?
What does John not know?
What can't you say, John? What's something that you're not allowed to tell us, but you're going to tell us anyways?
Get it. No, I think we're going to have a bunch of stuff come up when we start talking Ahsoka and some other stuff.
All right, cool. So, all right, let's talk about some news stuff. John, you got anything in the news you wanted to? I mean, news-wise, it's been pretty dead, right? Because, but guys, the writer's strike is over. That was the biggest news item we got last week. Right, we're still SAG is still out on strike, SAG-AFTRA, and I guess are going to be coming up to some type of an agreement. But are we excited? Like, I don't know if you guys have seen in the last 3 to 5 days, we've seen a bunch of stories. Like, I think is it Matt Shankman is directing Fantastic Four, right? And like they're going to be talking about casting coming out soon. James Gunn has a whole bunch more casting coming out on his stuff. They just got to get the go ahead with a few things. A lot of these movies are, getting kind of ready. They can't make announcements with respect to actors right now, right? And they can't even just have discussions with the actors right now until this whole thing is resolved. So, are you worried about what 2024 looks like, or are you kind of excited that this thing might be coming to an end and we could get some content soon?
John, take it.
Oh, sorry. I was going in order of what we appear on the screen, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't been really following. Like, they always say they're going to announce new casting, new whatever, right? But since that part of the strike isn't over, we've seen the whole, the SNL and the Drew Barrymore and all the controversy of these other shows that we're trying to start up before everything was wrapped up. So I don't know. I think we're going to have to sit tight, and I think we are going to experience, like, when everything kind of like stopped during COVID and stuff, and then we got like a flood of movies. And then like kind of like nothing for a bit. I think we're gonna have to prepare for nothing, because any of these movies which rely heavily on VFX, which is almost everything new, is gonna get trapped once they start filming. So if Superman Legacy or whatever hell it's called starts filming, they're gonna get stuck up in all their VFX and all the other stuff they have to do anyways. So I think we're in for a wait. And if they rush anything more, I don't know how much more rushed things can get than they already have been. Right. So, I think we're going to have to wait a little bit before everything starts to calm down. And I hope some of the bigger projects maybe take this time to put in some effort into, storytelling and all the other elements that are, I think, really lacking in today's, projects. So that's my thoughts so far.
Yeah, I think 2024, I think we're going to see the actors' strike resolved. I'm hoping we see it resolved before Christmas. Yeah. I don't know if that's it, but I would really love it to be. But I think we're still going to be in for a pretty bleak media for 2024. Like there's some stuff that's probably in the can, but everything else as they get going, I'm sure some people are rusty. They're going to have to change things, rewrite things, all that stuff. And if we just get all this stuff and it's just mediocre at best, it might be more detrimental, or we're just going to be sitting on more like shows like America's Got Talent or whatever, like these reality shows, which, I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty damn sick of all that stuff, right? But let's hope they can iron it out. And like John says, let's get back to making some great television and movies, right?
I saw a really cool movie. So last week, John, you and I were talking about how some people went and saw The Creator.
I thought you were going to say Expendables 4, but okay, I see where you're going.
No, I refuse to see that. But anyways, I went and I saw The Creator on Friday, and I really liked it, man. I loved it. Now, have you guys? I know, John, you haven't gone to see it, but Andre, did you go see The Creator or any interest at all?
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm definitely going to see it. It was on the docket. I was maybe going to go see it tomorrow, but it might be busy for if any of the theaters are open. But yeah, I definitely need to see it in IMAX. I've heard only good things about it visually and stuff. I've been skipping all the spoilers other than what they revealed in the first trailer. I haven't tuned into anything else.
Yeah. No, honestly, it's solid. I know that I think Fraser and Lewis saw it last weekend, right? So
Lewis recommended it like 8 times on the last podcast. So I think you have to look. Here's another recommendation for Lewis.
Yeah,
who is a hardcore critic on sci-fi. I think he still hasn't seen Dune yet, but we'll forgive him.
Yeah, and we like to say Dune just to get because we know that's absolutely crazy.
I'm waiting for Scott's comment to pop up so that can come up.
Yeah, he usually goes Dune. I imagine him doing it in the Captain Kirk voice. Dune. John, buddy, how was the rest of your week, pal?
Other than me and Andre being pretty busy at the shop. Unfortunately, you guys are going to talk about Ahsoka later. I tried to get into it, couldn't really get into it. I have started watching the new Justified, Rob, which I think you mentioned you watched already.
City Primeval.
City Primeval. I think I'm probably about the halfway mark.
Okay.
And I'll say it's not like completely justified. It's kind of like a justified light. Or a way for them to continue this character in almost like a mini series, like kind of like movie style, like movie of the month type thing. And I'm down with that. So unless it just blows up towards the last couple episodes and just turns out to be terrible sauce, I'm pretty happy with it so far.
Yeah.
So there we go. Here I go. Sorry. Gotcha, Scott.
So I finished Ahsoka. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. But I figured I was going to give Loki season 2, episode 1 a go. Now I know that Scott online seemed, and I don't know what Scott.
I think Andre watched it too, so you guys can definitely talk about episode 1.
Kind of an idea. Did you guys watch Loki, the first episode?
I think Andre did.
I did.
Okay, so like I'm trying to remember, and I guess I could have done my homework. And we could have gone back into the archives and re-watched our reviews of it. I feel like you were hyped the first little bit, and then just completely died out. Although I think you enjoyed. Did you finish it or did you enjoy the last episode only? I don't remember.
No, I think I might have enjoyed maybe the first episode or two, and then it got on that crazy train of bad and just kept going.
Yeah. And then the last episode was okay, but I mean, yeah, it was. So what did you think? Like, you saw the first one, I just saw it today. Like, are you like, oh, because I'll tell you, for me, I thought it felt tonally different than last season, which I actually kind of liked. Like, I actually really enjoyed this first episode.
I think, watching it, I don't know what I expected to happen, but I expected something to happen. And I really thought that it would hit the ground kind of running, and it didn't. And then it took forever to kind of build up to something. And I'm like, you know what? It's been 2 years since we've seen it. And I'm like, zero shits given. You know what I mean? Like, at this point, I'm just like, they needed to really like get you back in that chair and hold you down. Yeah. And it didn't do that for me. Like I watched it because I'm like, okay, let's see what, after all this time, like I really thought they would have gone. And I just feel that this show should have been out before the Quantumania and all this other Kang stuff, because it's just its own hot mess in this TVA bubble, and whatever they do in this show now, I can guarantee you, I said it before, and when we were talking about it, none of it's going to be relevant. Right. Yeah. So we're going to get 2 years, and then no matter what, it's going to it's not going to change anything. 2 seasons and stuff. So I don't know.
Well, I think the MCU,
I'd like to say I'm disappointed, but I'm not. I knew that. Yeah.
You knew it was coming.
The MCU is a hot mess right now, right? It really is. It feels rudderless, but I thought that this was a solid outing comparative to what we've had from from like their TV series and
Secret
Loki season 1 overall. I thought it was pretty cool. But admittedly, I know for me, I'm kind of like getting hype for I don't want to like wish the fall away and get into winter, but I'm getting hype for November with the 60th anniversary stuff of Doctor Who, right? So for me, I'm like, oh, I'm getting in some time travel stuff. This is kind of like it's starting to get my gears going. So,
Rob, let me ask you real quick. Did you like this episode because of Hiddleston and Owen, or did you like what happened in the episode? Because I know you're fans of those two guys, right? So there's nothing wrong with saying you like it because of that, but I felt the plot and all of this stuff. I was just like, this is just.
Yeah, well, so Scott said he enjoyed Kihi Kwan. I thought he was hilarious in it. I actually, the plot wise, I thought was a bit bananas. It felt like a 0.5 episode. You know, like instead of like an episode 1, it felt like it was 0.5, bridging season 1 to whatever's happening in season 2. It was that setup episode, that bottle. Like, it was Avengers 2. It was just made to set up the next. But I thought I felt like it was a decent palate cleanser from what we got with the end of episode of season 1. I want to get into stuff with the store though, John. What's going on this week, bud? What you guys got going and rocking in the store?
So just a quick recap of some of the events. Always, Wednesday's New Comic Book Day. If you're new to the game, that's when new comic books come out. That's when you want to come in and talk to me or Andre especially, get you onto those new books. And then we've got a couple events lined up, a lot of fun ones. Rob, I know you mentioned this before, our photography courses with our good buddy Jeff. He's running the next one. That is October 14th. It's going to be kind of Star Wars themed. So he's going to teach you lighting effects with lightsabers and fire effects. And like this picture here, I should have grabbed the behind the scenes picture. If you go to our Instagram, you'll see that. That's a whole bunch of cotton swabs and lights hidden and some kinetic sand on the floor. And it does not look anything like this picture he took if you look behind the scenes. So he's going to teach you how to do fun stuff like that. So it's a great workshop. We're going to start it later this time. It's going to be 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. for you sleepyheads. So not first thing in the morning. So you can come in and check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we also have, speaking of Doctor Who, we have the Doctor Who Magic the Gathering crossover set coming out. There's going to be available in Commander decks and collector's packs, and they're going to be out this coming Friday. And then we're going to have our launch event on the Sunday. So you can come in, learn to play Commander. If you don't know how to play Commander, you're going to want to grab one of those Doctor Who decks and play as your favorite Doctor and check it out. A lot of people are really excited. And then the collector's packs are going to feature all the different artwork and all kinds of fun takes on the cards. You can see these cards are your basic manas for Magic. I know that might not mean a lot to some of you, but you can see the TARDIS is in the background of a whole bunch of those things. It's going to be really cool. And then the last thing I'm going to mention, events-wise, before we have another announcement for Andre to cover, this is Andre's Comics, Cookies, and Conversation book club, where he gets together and talks about all your favorite comics. This month, October 26th, he's going to be talking about arguably the greatest Spider-Man story of all time, right, Andre?
Right up there.
Yeah. Amazing Spider-Man, Kraven's Last Hunt, the ultimate tale of revenge. So you're going to be able to come in, have some great comics, cookies, conversation. I was going to add coffee in there. So if you want to bring your own coffee, bring your own coffee. And you're going to be able to discuss this great piece of work that a lot of people actually surprisingly have not read, right, Andre?
Yeah, I think it's just before that 90s big boom and stuff. And I think it's one of these stories that because it's a little bit more mature, I think a lot of people don't recommend it, but I figured, hey, it's a little bit darker, perfect for Halloween without it being gross.
Yeah. Although I'm trying to remember, what was the rat guy's name? The guy starts with a V, doesn't it? Who's
Vermin?
Vermin. Yeah. That guy's pretty creepy looking.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, if people have been watching this show or in the Heroes World podcast long enough, they remember I used to have all those. Like I had Mike Zeck sign all those covers, those big, large covers I got at Fan Expo. I used to have them behind me in iteration of this office, like 1.0, I think, before. So I loved Kraven's Last Hunt. And in fact, I think I picked up my copy at Heroes World before the pandemic and stuff like that, or maybe
I think you got when they reissued it in hardcovers or something like that. I sent you a copy, Rob. And then one more final announcement, since we did already speak a little bit about Andre's cameo in Miss Marvel 1. We're announcing a new limited time limited edition exclusive here, Andre. What are we going to be putting on sale on the website right now?
Right now, going live right now. First up for our guys on the Sidekick Show, because you guys are always representing and supporting us. So you guys are going to get first look at the brand new Heroes World hoodie. That's inspired awesome. By my appearance and what I was wearing in that Miss Marvel comic. So it's a premium hoodie with a Heroes World embroidered patch on the sleeve and our initials there, the HW in a nice, what is it called? It's almost like a velvet or velour, really nice stitched on. So yeah, those are going to be up on our website. We're doing pre-orders for delivery in December. So if you are a Heroes World supporter or know a Heroes World supporter, it's going to make an excellent gift. And it is going to be limited. So we don't know what the run is. I think it's going to be about 100, John, or just around 100. So it might be something
depends on
to
orders,
get in there.
Yeah. So might only be 50. You know, you might want to scoop it quick, scoop it often. You know.
Yeah,
that's a really good phrase, John. With scoop it often, unless you're working in an ice cream store, scoop it often. Like,
you definitely should scoop your ice cream often so it doesn't get all frozen and freezer burned. But yeah, you want to grab that hoodie before it's gone. This is going to be a one-time run, and I think that's it. That's going to be it.
Right. You guys are going to have such. People are going to be going crazy. They're going to want another run, another batch of it, and stuff like that. Listen, I think it makes a great Christmas gift. It's red. Like, it totally. Unwrap that sucker. You can wear it on your Christmas morning, you know, with the rest drinking your hot cocoa. That thing is sick. That's awesome, guys.
Yeah, and while we're here, got to give a big shout out for Lewis, who always helps us with our logos and graphics and stuff. So thank you, Lewis. And he turned that one in pretty quick. That was we saw it in the comic, and I think I messaged him and said, "Hey, Lewis, did you see this? I need this." So thank you so much.
We always drive Lewis nuts by using the wrong version of whatever he said. He's like, no, you got to use the one for like black and white or the one for white and stuff. All right, we're on it, Lewis.
I'm just then let me just say I'm very thankful then that you weren't in the comic like in a Speedo, because I would hate
limited edition Namor Speedo.
And HW Speedo, you got limited run, guys, and I'm like,
oh, you'd buy it, Rob. You'd buy it because you love Namor.
Too. Oh, that's awesome, man. John, what else is going on? Is that anything else going on this week?
That's the majority of the stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks, and we always have our regular weekly events. Cardfight Vanguard on Wednesdays. We have our regular Magic Night on Fridays, and then we have a whole bunch of leagues for miniature gaming. If you're not into miniature gaming, miniature tabletop gaming, that is BattleTech, Warhammer. And we got a whole bunch of other new stuff coming in, and we're going to hopefully add some more D&D stuff to the schedule very soon. Very, very popular requested thing we got going on. So, awesome. Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Yeah, buddy. All right, so you're good. You're nothing else that you want to share with us? No hidden feelings. Your week was good. Everything's rocking and rolling. You're gearing up for Halloween. How much of the candy have you already eaten?
Oh Jesus! My house is littered with candy, so I got to try pretty hard to stay away.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone was buying those. What do you buy the most of? Do you buy like just boxes of the chips? I feel like at some point it transitioned. You know, everyone used to get the candy bars.
Yeah.
Now everyone switched over to the chips. I don't know if it's easier to store or you can use them for your lunch or whatever. But Rob, what's your go-to? Are you full-size candy barring it this year? That sounds fun.
I think we did that no, we didn't do it last year. I was going to go up to Costco and buy full size, and then I was like, the price didn't make any sense for me at the time. I was like, forget it. Let's just go with the mini ones. We'll just do the minis, and then we don't get a lot of kids in this area though, right?
Yeah.
In my side of the area, we don't get a lot of kids. We still I'm in an area where it's still some original owners, right? We're getting a few more families coming in, but like these houses were built in the 80s, so people who've had kids or they've moved out and this and that, and you'd have like the old folks, right? So we're getting a bit more kids, but mostly they all go to the other side because on the other side, the houses are so crammed together. Everybody's like handing out pop and like full candy bars and everything else of that. And they're like, I don't want to go to that side of the street. But my side of the street, they actually hand out some good stuff because you only get like 12 kids, right? So
yeah, I remember a can of pop was like the holy grail when you were a kid. You're like, oh my God, this is my old Coke.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, are you been watching any Halloween movies?
Not at all.
You idiot.
Did you watch the Batman? Did you watch the Batman last night? Is that what happened, Rob?
No, I didn't. No, but I was watching WWE Fastlane. I was watching to see what was going to happen between with Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus Judgment Day. But that's beside the point. No, but I did get my copy of the Lost Boys 4K in, so I am going to fire it up this
What?
week.
Seriously? You needed that in 4K,
Andre? Jack Bauer.
Okay.
As
It was a good movie, but I can't see buying another copy in 4K.
I don't have a copy.
Oh, okay.
I don't have anything. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to, if I had it in Blu-ray, this is a conversation that we were having last week. Is do you double dip? Like now I have a 4K player. So do I double dip? So that I'm trying not to, but I did double dip on two things. I got the Batman in 4K and I got Dune in 4K.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew you were watching Batman in 4K. I bet you paused it just to do the show today.
No, I might watch it tonight. All right. Well, listen, everybody, again, thank you so much for those who are tuning in and who are in the chat. Whether you're with us live, or after the fact, just so you know, every Sunday night, 8 p.m. live Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time. I think we're switching the clocks pretty soon. We are the Psychic Show, John Ho, or Rob Gadet, and obviously this week we have our special guest, Andre. We talked a little bit about Andre and his love of comic books, love of Star Wars, and then obviously we know that if you are a fan of the podcast and of the Heroes World show, you also know that Andre has always had his opinions on the Star Wars world and the TV series. And then he, Jesse, Scott, and
Megan,
we're doing reviews of Ahsoka, and I think that Andre, you're having an overall season thoughts on it video coming out soon. But let's kind of quickly dive in, man. I want to pick your brain, or John, I want to pick your brain on what your thoughts were on Ahsoka season 1 from your perspective, man. Where are you at?
All right. So I'm glad you did this kind of Andre intro.
Okay.
Because I wanted to kind of, premise or preface, start my Ahsoka review on my history with Star Wars. And I saw all the original movies in the theater, prequels, 1 to 5 times for Phantom Menace, 4 times for Attack of the Clones, 3 times for Revenge of the Sith, repeatedly. But I think what speaks more to that is being that kid in the 80s, getting the Marvel comic books, and then when the expanded universe came out, reading 90% of the novels. If the main characters were in those books, I read those the books. Then playing Star Wars role-playing games, video games, everything. So Star Wars, it's in my blood, it's in my DNA. You can probably get a midichlorian count from me and stuff. So that being said,
oh boy,
my feelings are going to be a little bit different than I think everybody's out there. But I just wanted to let you know that this comes from a place of a lot of Star Wars is in here. So let's talk just the season finale. Rob, you just finished it. So yeah. I will say, I'm going to work backwards. Season finale for this, I felt was very underwhelming and unsatisfying. Okay, I think it was probably the worst misstep of the series, but it delivered everything that people want. You want lightsabers? We're going to give you 3 lightsabers fights. You want, ship battling? We're going to give you a little bit of that. They gave you everything here, but it didn't kind of fit. It felt more like a mid-season finale than an actual series finale, and I think that's a big problem. So it kind of detracted for the rest of the series. I think the series started really well. The first couple episodes started really well. I almost felt that they were going to do a separate, cool Ahsoka driven story, and then it was a little slow to get its bearings. It did get its bearings, but then ultimately it fizzles and putters out towards the end. I will say it's my favorite of the Disney Star Wars live action TV shows.
Oh,
but thinking a lot about it is I think that it shows me that I think Disney now, after doing many of these live action shows, it shows me that I don't think television shows, live action television shows, are right for Star Wars. It's got to be big. It's got to have a big budget. They've got to impress. They've got to be visually stunning. While Ahsoka looked great and Andor looked great and Mandalorian started off looking really good, I think there's definitely something detracting from the grandeur that is Star Wars because they don't have the budget to do really big special effects or to get their actors to have enough time to train to look proper in a fight and stuff. So for me, I would rather them take a step back and go, hey, let's do some more cartoon stuff. Like Rebels is phenomenal. Okay. There's no budget when you do Rebels. There's no budget when you do cartoon. If you watch Clone Wars, if you watch the last season of Clone Wars, you swear you're watching like a film. It looks that good. But then when you're watching something like Ahsoka and you see Sabine, who's a Mandalorian, doesn't have her jetpack, doesn't throw bombs, doesn't have an energy shield, and she can block blasters with her.
You're dialing
with her
down
hand,
your graphical settings.
Yeah,
I would actually disagree, Andre. I think Sabine did throw some bombs and how she did.
No, she fired one missile.
I heard dialogue, but I digress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She fired one missile. So I just think that, looking at it, like some stuff looks great, but they don't have the time or the budget. And I know they can say they can put more story into a live action show, but then we get something like Ahsoka and you don't have a lot of there's not a lot of substance there because they were able to piggyback off of calling it Rebels season 5. So they didn't have to introduce, they weren't really storytelling. And the two new characters that we got that were really cool, we didn't learn really anything about them at all. No. And we don't really see a lot of character development in them at all. And stuff. And we don't know if there is going to be a season 2. Again, if they said, hey, this is the midway season, we got another 8 episodes coming, it's a different review. But that being said, I would still probably give the whole series a 7 or 7.5 out of 10 because I hope that if people watched it and liked it enough, they would go back and give Rebels a watch. And then maybe if they do watch it, then they can kind of understand and see what kind of good storytelling is and good progression of characters are so that they have something to kind of I don't want to say compare to, but you do have to make a little bit of that comparison. And a lot of that stuff that I see online where a lot of people are just, I love Ahsoka, love Ahsoka, love Ahsoka, love Ahsoka. It's the best, it's the best, it's the best. And then people are asking, did you watch Rebels? And people are like, no, I don't watch the cartoon stuff. And I'm like, well, the cartoon's part of the storytelling, and especially here, it's such a huge part. And I do think that when some people are talking about their love for Star Wars and how much they like what Disney's done, I question if they've read any of the novels or if they have watched any of the deep dive stuff. And like, it comes from a place of honor. We were talking earlier about my love for getting people into reading comics, but my good friend Scott, like I got him to read Heir to the Empire. That's his first, novel into Star Wars. So he knew where I'm coming from. And then he watched Rebels after me, gently putting my fist in his butt. Hey, watch it. And he watched it. And so now he can know. So I think, again, not trying to say it's not worth watching. I think it is totally worth watching. And I do think my opinion is going to be different than somebody who is just a more casual vested viewer. But I will say ultimately, while my expectations were low, it still didn't meet that for this show.
Yeah, I don't know. 7.5 is pretty high for you, Andre. I think.
Yeah,
and I don't think you're alone in this sentiment. I know we did a lot of lead up, and you kind of like prepared people. But I think a lot of people actually share the thoughts that you had. But Rob, as a total casual, like, what are your thoughts on tanking this whole thing in one day? I think.
Well, yeah, over a couple of days. Like, okay, so I have a cursory knowledge, acknowledgement of Thrawn, of some of these characters, right? Again, I only watched like maybe half a dozen episodes of Rebels, and I was like, I'm out. It wasn't for me. And we've talked about this before, and I said this on the show numerous times. I'm like a Star Wars movie guy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I enjoy the movies, but I'm not going to read the book. It's just not my thing. I'm not going to read the books. I wasn't into the Clone Wars show. That's just not my area. I never get caught up in it, or it doesn't grasp me enough to say I want to dedicate my time for that. So for me, I was like, how am I going to enjoy Ahsoka, which is really, as you said, Andre, like a Rebels season 5 or 6, whatever, right? And will it allow the casual viewer like myself, will it be able to draw me in so I don't feel lost, right? And so I found it, for me, I was like, okay, it pays what I am going to assume, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of fan service to people like yourself, like Scott, like Lewis, people who have watched Rebels and Clone Wars and maybe even done the deeper dives in those books, because I think it a tip of the hat to individuals. Like Stu would say, like it rewards those who watch everything that kind of comes before it, right? I found it, though, that was also its fault early on in the series, in that there's no I think you can easily bridge the divide to say, okay, people who know these characters, we're going to give a little bit of backstory, a little bit of clarification or clarity to the people who are coming on board. So the new people can understand who these people are, and the people who know them can say, oh yeah, that's right, I'm familiar with these characters. I think there's a way you can do it to welcome both parties into the camp. And I found that this series didn't really do that. It really played to like, we're going to really gloss over this real quick. Wow. But if you don't know any of that, well, okay, but here's what's going on. And so like, okay, so Sabine is looking for a guy named Ezra. I always think Better Than Ezra, the band from the 90s. Okay, fine. You're off looking for this person, and everybody's worried about this Thrawn guy, and he's you guys are probably gonna go after him, and that's just gonna happen. And okay, fine, but there's no I have no emotional attachment to any of these characters or anything else, because it really kind of feels like you just hop right into it, right? But from the layman's perspective, and maybe I'm dumbing myself down here, but stabby lightsaber stuff, like the action I thought was really cool, right? Like I thought that the show looked really well. And in the last number of years, we've been subjected to watching shows that are pure green screen, or they're using the void or the wall for a lot of their stuff. Like a lot of the Mandalorian stuff is, uses the void. And I know that this show used a little bit, but they use a lot of practical sets too. Like you could tell they built a lot of practical sets. And, some of the stuff in the later episodes, like when they're in the other galaxy, with the pillars at that temple, you could tell like there was the green screen or the void was behind them. But there was still a lot of practical sets and that I really appreciated. I thought episode 4, is that the one where she's in the water, Ahsoka's in the water and having that duel? I thought that was like 5. Really episode 5. I thought that was
5, well. That's the one episode I saw.
That I thought it looked good. Like I thought it was really well done. I like the editing of it, of Anakin Vader as he was walking. I thought that was really smooth and well done. But at the end of the day, it didn't really hold a lot of the stakes didn't really mean anything because I don't know, again, I'm going to sound stupid, but having seen episodes 7, 8, 9, Thrawn's not anywhere in this new empire, right? So I don't know, is he really this big of a badass? Because apparently he doesn't exist in these movies. So I don't really know. I don't get it, and I'm like, whatever. I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is.
Would you prefer if they fast X'd him back into like other Star Wars movies and they cut over and he's like in the background doing stuff? Yeah. That would be great.
But I will say though that Ray Stevenson's Balon was the one character I was like, man, I want to know more about this dude. Like I thought, first of all, he did a fantastic job in that role. Given how limited I think he parameters he was given, I thought he did a really good job, and I wanted to know more about him. I wanted to know, well, what's this? What is this journey you're on? What are you seeking? Like, And I found that the finale, the season finale, made it feel like they were trying to say, oh, this is really important. But I didn't get that gravitas. But I do want to know more about this character. And unfortunately, Ray Stevenson has obviously had passed away just a number of months ago, right? And so I kind of feel like, oh shit, man. Like, do you recast him? Do we want to continue this journey? Like, I want to know what's kind of going on. That to me was his character was kind of what drew me in week to week, as opposed to really anything else happening in the series. But again, I'm a noob comparative to like Andre and Scott and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's a new original character, right? I don't think he exists, right? So it's almost like you're doing like a Mandalorian thing where you created this new character in the universe. But yeah, all right. I don't know if I'm going to ever watch it. So, and what do you give it out of 10, Rob?
Yeah, I'm from where I'm coming from. Like I would give it a 7, right?
Okay.
Like I give it a 7. It's not. I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed Obi-Wan.
Oh
yeah,
it's like not a hard task.
More. I really like season 2 of The Mandalorian. I wasn't overly happy with season 3, so I would probably say this is kind of up there with season 2 of Mandalorian. The Book of Boba Fett still is like sucks balls, so I can give a shit about that. But I don't know. Like, here's the reality: if they don't come up with a season 2, I'm not going to be chuffed about it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel, and this is the problem I'm having with these, like, even these MCU shows. They don't really mean anything anymore.
Yeah, Andre, if they maybe sidetrack the Mandalorian and just stick with Ahsoka, and we get 4 seasons of Ahsoka, would you look forward to that, or you think you're done after the season?
It's such a good question. Like, a lot of people ask me this at the shop, and I think the effort that they put with Ahsoka was good enough that if you had said you get nothing or you get live action Ahsoka and the crew of the Rebels, would I choose it? And I would choose it.
Okay.
So if they did continue the story through Ahsoka, maybe they called it something else or whatever, but what they would have to do, they'd have to make adjustments because, again, like, they co-opted it and called it Rebel Season 5, but as Rob said, they didn't clue anybody into that who wasn't part of that. And I do think they would have to there's an emotional connection with these characters that people have loved in Rebels for 4 seasons that isn't translated on the screen. So I think they have to work on that. Like, I do think that what Disney Star Wars is doing is, I'm going to use the word robbing. It's not delivering closure in a way to fans or that emotional attachment and resolution to fans. Like, at the end of Ahsoka season finale, sorry, spoilers, guys, we're talking full on it.
Okay, good.
Hera sees Ezra. They haven't seen each other for 10 plus years. Didn't know this guy's alive.
Right.
And they stand on opposite ends of the hangar, and there's no embrace. There's no tears. There's no joy.
Yeah.
There's, you know what I mean? Like, there's
no shock.
This should have been like a yes, like, finally he's back, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
And you could see the same thing. Look at what the Disney sequel movies did. We didn't get Han, Leia, Luke, and even The Mandalorian. Wouldn't the meeting between Ahsoka and Luke have been a great moment? Like, could you imagine you seeing your master in the face of his son? That we needed a moment like where she could just be like, "Oh my God, you look so much like your father," or "Let me tell you about your mother and father." And we don't get that. And I don't understand why Disney, hey, we're telling great stories.
There's no time.
No, but I don't think it's a time thing. I think it's a conscious decision, because usually Disney movies are all about the heart and air quotes family, like all of these,
usually, yes,
things and fables. But they need to put that in, because that's a big part of Star Wars. It's not all lightsabers and spaceships. It's literally about family and those you choose to become your family. And without them putting those in the show, people are not going to get connected to the characters. Like, Rob can't connect to the characters, and anybody else watching the live action stuff isn't going to connect to the characters. So I would watch it, John, but if they never got that part right, I don't think I would stay with it, because then they're just cardboard figures, and I wouldn't care about it. You know,
I will say I did really like Andor. So sorry, I forgot about Andor. That's my asterisk.
You forgot about it.
No, I
It
did.
wasn't really
I
a
was
Star Wars
talking
show.
about- because I feel like that's Star Wars
Adjacent.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, right. Also, here's my question. I know I didn't want to get too into spoilers, but did Robert Kirkman write the last episode of this series? Because like we know what's in those containers, those crates, right? You know, we're gonna have George A. Romero's version of Star Wars is happening if Ahsoka season 2 takes place, right? Like that to me, I was like, I texted a buddy of mine who's like really into Star Wars, much like Andre is. Like I'll say, oh my God, I'm starting to watch this. And all of a sudden I get like 48 text messages with all the stuff. I'm like, stop, my eyes are hurting. I can't read it all. I gotta catch up. Happening. It's too much for me. But like, it's like when I talk about like Tool and John's like, but
I like Tool.
Yeah, no, but
use them every day. Take apart stuff.
But like, honestly, I was like, dude, there's like witches and now zombies. Like, what is happening, man? Like, what Star Wars is this? It just feels bizarre to me. But you can't rest on your laurels and have the same thing over and over and over again, which is what I think people complained about with The Force Awakens, that it was too much of a rehash of episode 4, right? So I guess they're trying something new. Some people must like it. I don't know. But to me, I was like, come on, man. Like, you know, if Zack Snyder is going to start doing the zombies and Dawn of the Dead remakes in Star Warsville, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, what about my final secret option, Rob? Okay, my final secret option, Andre, and maybe only you can answer this question. The most unloved characters from, I guess, the Star Wars universe, because we've only seen them in one movie. They've never reappeared again, to my knowledge. Ewoks, Andre. Can we get some Ewok shows going on? Like little guys walking around in bear suits or something? Why do they hate Ewoks? They've created Pogs or Porgs or whatever the hell those things are. Little guys riding on droids, all this stuff. Why no love for the Ewoks? What happened, Andre? Did they get blacklisted or something?
Maybe it was something to do with child labor. There was too many child labor.
Look how much Jawa time there is. But
they had their movie, John, and they screwed it up. They had their Battle of Endor movie.
Maybe Endor is literally like, quarantine because they become carnivorous after defeating the stormtroopers.
These travels, like Clone Wars, Rebels, everything. No Ewok ever.
No
shows
Ewok.
Up.
We've never seen an Ewok again. You're absolutely right.
Did we not see Ewoks? Like, I mean, if I say,
I think the holiday special and Return of the Jedi. That's it.
I feel like we saw
Ewok
them.
Well,
like,
there was also in the cartoon, in the C-3PO, the droids.
Maybe that burned the bridge.
Yeah, and their movie, that horrible movie with like that Wilford Brimley knockoff. You don't remember that, John?
No, is it Gremlins? Are we talking about Gremlins?
No, it was literally the Ewoks Battle for Endor. It was a movie.
Oh, is that it? Maybe they filmed that thing and it got blacklisted with that Fantastic Four movie back in the day. I don't know. I mean, we'll see it. That'll be Disney's surprise announcement. That they're doing a Ewok show to explore. Their national. You know how they were doing the National Geographic series called Boba Fett and exploring all this, the sand crawlers and all that stuff. It's going to be Ewok in the history of what they've been doing, and there'll be a bunch of Ewoks in like an office just going, we got kicked out of the Star Wars universe and we'd be here all the time. But I don't know. So
suffice to say, Andre's going to have a lot more to say about Ahsoka. And his overall thoughts. I'm sure he's going to get really into the weeds on a lot of stuff. The people that really want to know specifics about the series, about the episodes, Andre's going to get into that. So, Andre, you've got your Ahsoka season review coming out soon, right?
Yeah, it should be out in the next week or so.
Okay, so that's coming soon. And I think that's about it. I mean, we got Loki. Are you still going to watch Loki episode 2, Andre? Or are you out?
I don't. You know what? I'll wait to see if you tell me anything happens in it, and then maybe I will check it out. But
no, because I'll say it was decent, and you're gonna watch it. You're gonna say, I'm never trusting anything you say. And
he already doesn't.
Every few months this happens. I'm like, decent. You watch it? Nah, shit. What's wrong with you?
All right, awesome. Thank you, everybody, for giving us your Thanksgiving night, or I don't know, holiday Sunday evening. Thank you, Andre, for popping on and guest starring. You dropped a lot of Star Wars knowledge here. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for grabbing a hoodie. I think we're already.
Get that picture back up, bud.
Yeah. Let's drop the hoodie up. So this is your exclusive Sidekick Show reveal or limited edition hoodie. So grab them while they're hot, and grab them often is what I like to say, which doesn't make any sense. And thank you, Rob, as always. The Sidekick Show. Yes. We got 2 in the bag for 2023 now, Rob, or summer of 2023, or
what are you talking
post summer? I don't know. We got 2 in a row
fall.
now. Right? Yeah.
We took some time off. Yeah, we took a few months off, and now we're back. Yeah. Miss you guys,
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay,
so next week, John. Next week it's another news review stuff that's going on in the store. So, but if people want, hit us up next week and let us know how you're getting another week into the spooky season. So let us know what movies and shows you guys have been watching. John and I we'll be chatting up. And I guess, John, are we doing a review of The Lost Boys then for the end of the month? Is that our?
I think we might. We'll throw it on the schedule. Jack Bauer as a vampire. Let's go.
All right. And Speed 2, Cruise Control, Jason Patrick, Jack Bauer from we'll combine forces there, and we'll see how things go with the Frog.
Watch Speed 2.
The Frog Bro. I actually didn't mind Speed 2. I thought it was
nobody.
Right.
Shut up.
Willem Dafoe. You can't go wrong.
You
with
must have been
Dafoe.
a huge Sandra Bullock fan then. If you actually watched that.
No, man, Willem Dafoe. He had bombs made out of golf balls, man. That's classic villainy right there. And he used leeches to take rid of his copper disease.
No one watched the movie. You can make up whatever you want about Speed 2. But anyways,
all right. Lost Boys 2 currently streaming in Canada on Crave if you have the Stars extension or subscription, so you can check it out there.
Yeah, or you can buy it on 4K like Rob did. His second movie he owns next to the Batman. The Batman Lost Boys.
I got a couple other ones.
I would at least put Top Gun Maverick in there somewhere.
I did.
Anyways,
I got that today and I watched it this afternoon.
All right.
There you go, John.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, buddy. Peace. See you guys.